Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, just in time. My name is Andrea Simantov, and you are listening to Pull Up a Chair on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Last night of Hanukkah tonight. All right, everybody. I hope that everybody has had a wonderful Hanukkah, a meaningful Hanukkah, that all of us have brought light into the lives of others. Let's see. I usually start the day and say, wow, it's such a beautiful day in Israel, such a beautiful sunny. It is cold. It is bitter. My feet, I think I have frostbite. Can you imagine frostbite in the middle of Jerusalem? But any of us who are fortunate enough to have heat in our homes, to have socks to put on our feet, to have somebody to call to say, hey, how are you doing today? It's a good day. It's a blessed day. It's a beautiful day. Today, we've called the show, I call the show today Staggering or Stagnant. And I'm thinking to myself, I had so many interactions this week, so many exciting conversations. Yes, exciting conversations, even as the world goes into, what are we, month 10, month 11, month 11 of Parshat COVID. There's a lot to be grateful for. There's a lot of wonderful things unfolding. And please, just as the secular calendar is about to turn another page, another rustling page on the Gregorian calendar, please don't waste another day bemoaning the nothingness of 2020, the sadness of 2020. No. Other days, we're going to discuss today Yosef being in prison. He didn't waste the time, and it's there for us to emulate. Before we go to the break, I want to say good night, good evening, happy Hanukkah to the U.S., Boker Tov Eretz Israel. Hi, Canada, United Kingdom's listening in today, Australia, France, Norway, good morning, Nigeria, happy to see you here, and of course, South Africa. My name is Andrea Simantov. Guess what? I'll see you on the other side.
The return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel was prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago and is coming true today. Shalom. Join me, Josh Wander, on Israel Unplugged. Listen in as we delve into the spiritual and physical aspects of the Jewish return to Zion. We'll discuss the biblically mandated, historic, and of course practical understandings of this incredible transition from exile to redemption. That's Israel Unplugged, every Monday on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
Okay, we're back. Andrea Simantov, pull up a chair on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, talking to you on an overcast, blustery, and truthfully extremely appropriate December morning. Okay, so let's see. Tonight is the last night of Hanukkah, and last night, you know, the calendar races. It goes, somebody said to me that growing older is sort of like, sorry, making life akin to a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. All right, I didn't say that. I didn't make that up. So this week I had a kind of stop, Andrea. Stop having these ADD moments. Listen up. These are the rules of the show. The rules of the show is, first of all, the chat room is open. If you're listening to this live, you're, of course, probably already in the chat room. So drop me a note. Tell me where you're listening in from. On the other hand, I understand that a lot of people listen to this on podcasts. They listen on different streaming services. I don't really know what that means, but anytime you want to drop me a note, something you heard on the show, you'd like me to send you the links to where I get my information. It really is not all, these are not all seeds that are coming from my imagination. Drop me a note, Andrea at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Happy to send you links to really good stuff. Okay, so we call the show today Staggering or Stagnant. Our choice. Had a lot of interactions this week. Met with a lot of really holy people, lofty people in my business. And people have been suffering this year, really suffering. I don't know, I say it like I'm incredulous. What, I haven't also been suffering? And I think to myself, every day, every moment is so precious. How much time are we going to spend crying, weeping? You know, weeping plays a huge role in this week's Parsha. Yosef, when he's confronted with his brothers, he sees his brothers, he was so excited. They're coming down from Egypt. Maybe there will be some kind of a closure. They can put all of this in perspective. And there's a lot of crying, happy crying, sad crying. And I was thinking, I had a medical procedure this week and had a CAT scan. And I've had these before. And I have to tell you, anybody who's ever had one of these CAT scans and you lie, they say to you, are you claustrophobic? And you know that, you have to do it. So you sit and you say no, but you die 1,000 deaths as they put you into this machine and the noise is unbearable. They say, what kind of music do you want? And I say, give me some Vivaldi, give me some classical music, but you can't hear any of it because it's just horrible. Well, anyway, I have gotten more and more into meditation. And this week I was able to meditate throughout this entire really otherwise frightening experience. And when it was finally over, the technicians and the nurses came in and they unstrapped me and they unpinned me and they un-IV'd me. And I was crying, tears were. And I said, oh, Mrs. Simintov, are you all right? And I was fine. I was crying because I had actually traveled to different places, and I saw people who are no longer in this present incarnation. And I was talking and visiting, and I know that they were available, and it was very nice. And I found tears streaming down my face from the pure joy of creating a different reality, creating from my own source, my own inner faith, my own inner optimism. So I realized that when we talk about tears, oh, don't stop them, let them flow. It's a very Jewish thing. Have fun with tears. So this week, I had a sad conversation with an elderly relative, a very elderly relative. And, she stated that what she's going through, she's going mad from the situation. I don't think this is novel to anybody listening in. She's going mad from the loneliness, from the isolation, from the same. It's very funny. The things she's feeling are not anything that is not available to all of us. The loneliness, the isolation, the uncertainty, more questions than answers. She's suddenly finding herself in this downward spiral. And for me, it was very, very hard to watch. And, I felt helpless, very helpless to do anything other than, okay, take notice, men, to listen. And what was I going to say to this relative who's well into her 90th, okay? Into her 90th, she's, what do you say, the 10th decade? I think it's the 10th decade if you're in your 90s. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, I was almost embarrassed that I wanted to say to her, there's so much to be vigilant about and to be upbeat about, that it's a 24/6 challenge that we don't always meet. Sometimes we have to just listen to one another and emulate, demonstrate, be the embodiment of indeed hope. Because clearly this mind-body connection is undeniable now. Sad thoughts, it leads to lethargy. It leads to illness. They're doing the studies. The facts are there. People who experience depression also experience illness at a greater percentage than the other population. Remaining upbeat costs a lot. But you know what? Even in its most minimal way, by believing, by knowing that tomorrow can be better and will be better because of our own efforts, it allows us to maybe not move mountains, but it allows us to put one foot in front of the other. Even when that road ahead of us is strewn with stones or muddy. The fact is, with the exception of God in heaven, we don't know who's looking, who's going to emulate our pace, whether it's peppy or slow, and whose lives small me, can change forever. They say that when you throw a pebble in the ocean, the ripples go on and on forever. Well, it's not only a pebble. It's not only a stone. Even a grain of sand creates eternal movement. Okay. So anyway, this is interesting. I think it's interesting. Let me take a sip. Okay, everybody take a sip. Whatever you're drinking. If it's early morning, it's coffee. If it's late at night, it's wine, it's scotch. If it's early morning wine and scotch, write me a letter. I can help you. Okay. So I spoke with a client this week. We were having our chit chat. Listen, I'm a hairdresser. What should I say? The root of hairdresser, or hairdresser in Hebrew, is saparit. Saparit. You can practice that. Do the ch. Saparit, the resh. But anyway, saparit, inside the root is storytelling, sharing, talking. And that's what women do. I don't know what men do when they go to the hairdresser. They get their heads buzz cuts. But women, we chat, we solve the world's problems, we fix each other's marriages, okay? And we share diet tips. So this week, I was speaking to a very lofty client, okay? Loftier than me for sure. And we were talking about a local rabbi that we both know. And we have seen him, his incarnation has changed. He's become very, very political. And I actually saw a posting on Facebook where he hasn't had his hair cut in 10 months. And I didn't really realize why. I didn't understand why. I didn't read why. But to me, it was interesting because I wanted to cut it. And he has dedicated his life to reforming public behavior, the behavior of the rabbinate, the rabbis who organize what is kosher, what is not kosher, and demanding accountability as brought down by Torah and has unfortunately become a very absent, oh my gosh, the English is going, commodity, that's the word, commodity in our world. So I had mentioned, of course, that his hair grew long and that I said, he seems to have reinvented himself as this kind of hipster from when we first met. And what did she say to me? She said, well, I don't think he reinvented himself. I think he's rediscovered himself. I liked that. I liked that a lot. It reminds me, and it's something that we talk about on this show a lot, reminds me of my deeply held belief that all babies are born with an innate knowledge of God. They're born, forgive me for the term, religious. They appreciate and they understand heaven. And what do we do as parents, as thinkers, as oh so wise? We systematically take this away from them little by little. And for those of us who return to Torah observance, we do teshuvah, we return, we atone. When we begin to live a life in which God sits squarely front and center of that life, We haven't changed. We've merely returned to a place of knowledge and contentment. I liked that a lot. Okay, in the last 30 seconds, I'm going to tell you my husband bought me a Hanukkah gift. He bought me an air fryer. So I guess he bought me an air fryer so that he can have better meals. So tonight, I'm going to buy him a Hanukkah gift of diamond earrings. Andrea Simintov, see you on the other side. Hi everyone, this is Andrea Simintov from Jerusalem, inviting you to drop everything and join me on my show, Pull Up a Chair. We'll visit this week's quirky stories, meet fabulous guests, and discover my Israel. Together we'll laugh, shout, and explain the topics that make us say, hey, we've got to talk about that. So get comfortable and pull up a chair with me, Andrea Simintov, every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Okay, we're back. Andrea Simintov, Pull Up a Chair, Israel News Talk Radio.com. All right, I'm just looking over these notes today. You like that idea that I'm going to get my husband for Hanukkah diamond earrings because I look so good at them. All right. All right, so you know what? I want to get to some stuff. I have so many of my mind musings. I go over the place. But, oh, yeah, very cute. One of the clients told me this story. It was very crazy. Like last Shabbos, she has this octogenarian neighbor who, I don't know, I hope she's not with the Black Widow. I mean, she's been widowed twice, but I guess it can happen if you live long enough. Anyway, so they're not even close. So this older gal, let's call her Maddie. Okay, Maddie. I like that, from Matilda. We'll call her Maddie. And Maddie says to my friend Sue, I have a new boyfriend. Can I bring him over to lunch on Shabbos? And Sue is like a little taken aback. They're not really that close, but she says, yeah, okay. She's fantastic, this widow. She's always baking and grandchildren, very, very vibrant. So now she's got a new boyfriend. And she brings him up, and then Maddie gets up after they have their appetizer, and she runs in the kitchen, and she says to Sue, so what do you think? Do you think he's cute? And Sue's thinking to herself, like, what is this? High school? I have to approve of him? And we had this talk, and I realized, you know what? I bless everybody listening in that our passions, our pain, and the belief in happily ever after, those high school attitudes, that should remain with everybody, in our hearts, okay? Anybody listening in, let's have all of that fun, all that excitement, all of that, what do you think stuff going on. All right, let's skip some Torah stuff right now because I do want to talk about other things that made me smile this week. Hold on, we're turning the page. Okay, yeah. Okay, so in the media, very interesting, I have, of course, listen, just a little tip. Okay, for those of you who celebrate Hanukkah and are still wrapping presents, and those of you who are not of the Jewish faith and are going to be wrapping Christmas presents, little tip, all right? Take it from me, from life experience. So I had fufu. I had, let me just think, how many, 8, 15. I had to wrap like 30 Hanukkah presents for all the grandchildren and the daughters-in-laws and son-in-law, blah, blah, blah. And so what I did was I laid it along the treadmill handle because it's not really being used that much, all the pieces of tape. And then the next piece of tape I would put on my chin so that it was readily there for me to wrap up against. The women know what I'm talking about, okay? Is that sexist? Tough. So the women know. So you put the tape on the chin, ready for the next pieces there, waiting. So you have to reach. Well, guess what? I developed a very serious case of dry chin. My chin is like kind of like an emery board down below, and I didn't know what it was from. I have a new client, fabulous, talented, gorgeous. She's a cosmetician. I was going to show her my chin and say, look what happened. I'm becoming defective. And then I realized it is cheap Scotch tape. So just be aware, ladies. All right. Friend of mine, Nachum Siegel, oh my gosh, he has been on the radio for 107 years. I know him. I'm not joking. We worked together first time in 1990, and he was already an established radio personality. Anyway, he goes on this radio journal to Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. You heard it here. I have very mixed feelings about Dubai. I would rather not be fighting with my neighbors than fighting with them. I'm very happy. I'm happy when it's a good day. I'm happy when Bhutan and Morocco and United Arab Emirates are signing on and want a piece of our friendship, a piece of our love, a piece of our craziness. But, I still have enough Israeli in me to be frightened, to be nervous, to be just a little on guard, okay? A chocolate cake doesn't taste sweet unless you add the salt. All right. But anyway, Nachum Siegel went on a radio jaunt to Dubai, and this is Nachum's words. All right. And you could find him. I think he's got, what does he call it? JM in the AM is his show. JM in the AM. Very interesting. Guy has earned his wings. All right. We just completed, this is all a quote, we just completed an exhilarating 3 days broadcasting from Dubai, UAE. JM and the AM have been on the road before, and every trip is unique. This journey had its own moments and lessons, and we were able to transmit our global audience. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to just the things that really popped out at me. When the Abraham Accords were announced and normalization was celebrated by Israel, the U.S., the UAE, and Bahrain, a new world opened up for Israelis and Jews around the globe. There had been Jewish visitors to the UAE before. It was a country that openly embraced a relationship with Israel, but now times are different. Hebrew is being spoken all over Dubai. I'm sorry for laughing. My husband has thoughts about this. Wait till they really get to know us. Okay, that was a little aside. It was a joke. A joke! All right. Hanukkah week is attracting tens of thousands of Israelis, and when one walks publicly with a kippah, a yarmulke, locals express a desire to meet Jews and learn more about their background. Safe, clean, futuristic environment Dubai, made for an enjoyable visit, blah, blah. He had heard about the realities, goes on, Nachum, we used to call him Stretch, he's like 100 feet tall, from 7,000 miles away, and many of us had, but there's nothing like seeing things with your own eyes and hearing with your own ears. Other discoveries he made, many of them dispelled some of the many ideas I had formulated through the years of being observant Jews and lovers of Israel. Here is what pops out at me. Nachum writes, could an Arab government service a population with their basic needs and encourage productivity and growth? The UAE has. We saw it. Could an Arab government establish clean, organized, and futuristic cities and a country that would become a tourism hub and attractive destination for peoples of all countries? The UAE has. We saw it. Could an Arab country sincerely want to live in peace and harmony with Israel and open up business and tourism channels with the Jewish state? Would those Arabs be friendly and accommodating to Jews and Israelis? Would they reject those Arabs that want to try and murder Jews in the name of the Quran? The UAE has. We saw it and we heard it. The experience was exhilarating, blah, blah. Many of us grew up in an era with suicide bombers and corrupt Arab administrations, and rejection of real and sincere peace dominated the headlines. Might find much of this hard to believe. According to Nachum, one visit to Dubai and through great conversations that we broadcasted to thousands around the world opened up our eyes to a new reality and gave us tremendous hope for the future of the Jewish people on the world stage. Interesting. I respect him greatly. He loves Israel. He loves Jews. His entire life has been dedicated to the health, wealth, and success of Am Yisrael. I will keep my eyes open and see what else Nahum Stretch Siegel has to say in the future. Okay, here is a interesting post from an acquaintance of mine, and she recently she wrote a book, and she was trying to she's self-published, and it's received some very nice acclaim. And not so much about her book, and I'm not here to tout her book. I'll skip the part where we tout the book. But I loved what she talked about, the Hanukkah miracles. We talked a lot about it last week. So according to my friend Sippy, she wrote, this is her again. I once read that the true miracle on Hanukkah was not a vial of oil that typically lasted one day, lasting 8, but rather the action of the person that lit that oil when it seemed pointless, when all appeared to be destroyed. Daring to act when there seems to be no hope shifts things to a different reality, a place where impossible becomes all is possible. Faith forges miracles, just as when Nachshon, for listeners' edification, that's Nachshon ben Aminadav, the first one to step into the sea, all the way up to his nostrils. And only then it parted for the Israelites to cross. It's not easy to have faith these days when people's jobs and businesses have been destroyed, or when your own health or a loved one's has been impaired. It's not easy to keep going when you can't pay the bills, or far worse, have lost a loved one. She goes on to say that I know my challenge is small potatoes compared to so many others, but it wasn't easy to write and self-publish a book. And marketing that book in a world flooded with books is also no small matter. But again, it's about taking that first step into the sea, praying not to drown. It's about lighting the wick again and again, hoping that it will take and hopefully burn brightly. And then she goes on and talks about her particular book publishing Hanukkah miracle. And then she says, at Hanukkah, we're supposed to publicize the miracle. So here's your chance. By sharing how we took actions that made the impossible or pointless, not just possible, but full of purpose, we give others the hope to take that first step. You might be the angel who inspires another to act when he or she is tempted to say, why bother? Or, it won't help. Wow. Thank you, Tzipi. Thank you for helping us light this last light of Hanukkah. When we come back, of course, my gosh, the program's racing. We're going to do Devar Torah. We're going to light up Shabbos Miketz. And I'm going to tell you a wonderful story, a kiss on the Hope radar, on the Hope screen, about 2 fabulous Holocaust survivors named Saul and Ruby. See you on the other side.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
And me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, I'm back. Andrea Simintov. Pull up a chair. Pull up a chair. Pull up a futon. Pull up a beanbag. And before I was having a nice chat. Let's just go see in here. I had a great chat with Tanya. Tanya, she's my kind of gal. It's like the middle of the night where I don't want to identify her. She didn't give me permission to identify her. It's like late and she's drinking coffee. I said, this is a sister. All right. Again, drop me a note, Andrea at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Let me know if you want me to send you the links, the sources for some of the stuff that I share with you before we go into. By the way, we're still doing these home shows. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet, everybody. Israel is not in a good place, not as horrible statistically as what I understand New York and the rest of America is in terms of diagnosed illnesses and actually deaths. But Israel is not in a good place, not a proud place. And so many ways we're not coming closer together. We'll be growing further apart. Let's keep the show upbeat. Let's keep it upbeat. Let's keep it upbeat. So we may indeed be I may be doing the show from my home for the next 120 years. So you'll get to hear my husband gargling, the dog barking, the neighbors, I don't know, doing their neighborly things, pulling up the blinds. Blinds are very noisy here. Okay, so before we go into the Devar Torah section, came across a lovely story. Some of you already know the story. Okay, I had heard of it 6 years ago. Saul Dreyer, I don't know where Mr. Dreyer lives now, but he read about the death of a renowned pianist and Holocaust survivor, Alice Hertz Sommer, who said, and she was quoted, she was quite well known, and she quoted that music sustained her through the darkest times in the camps. And at that time, 6 years ago, so now he's 95, so what, he was 89, he was a novice musician, and he hadn't picked up an instrument in more than 60 years. Okay, you can do the math. All right, he was 30 years old last time he picked up the music. So, but as a survivor himself, something was sparked inside of him. And what did he decide to do? This 89-year-old survivor? I think I'll start a klezmer band. All right, he teamed up with a fellow Polish-born survivor, and who was already a very accomplished musician whose name was, I know I'm going to get it wrong, Ruby Sosnovich. And what happened was they actually were discovered, a documentary was made, Saul and Ruby's Holocaust Survivor Band. And you actually can see the movie. I'm going to repeat it. Saul and Ruby's Holocaust Survivor Band. And it's streaming on YouTube, Google Play, Vudu, and Amazon Prime. And it reveals how Dreyer, who told the Jerusalem Post, I think like last week or something, that his musical experience started with clapping spoons and playing drums to keep up the morale in the camps. And they went from, as a band, they then went from playing modest community centers and libraries, they went back to Poland, if you could even imagine. They played. So I'm not going to give you the whole story. We could find it. It's a must-see. I didn't see the whole thing, but I loved it. He said to survive in the ghetto and the camps is a miracle. I can't survive. I can't comprehend how I survived, the way I was living and eating. The lice were eating me. And his dream was to play in Auschwitz for the 6 million who perished. And it seems that when he walked into Treblinka, where his mother was burned alive, the rain started. And he quoted as saying, "It's almost as if 6 million were crying." One small candle, one small flame, one small light. We have the power. He was adorable. He said to his rabbi, "I want to start a klezmer band." And the rabbi said, "It can't be done." So he did it. He said to somebody else, a friend of his, a dear friend, "I want to start a klezmer band." He said, "Don't do it. It's impossible." So I did it. My kind of guy. Okay? All right. Whoa. Winding it down. A lot of tears, a lot of talking. How many pages for Torah do we have? Oh, okay. Miketz. Parashat Miketz. It opens by relating the dreams of the Egyptian Paro that would ultimately, of course, lead to the release of Yosef from the dungeon and his rise to viceroy. These dreams we're told were experienced by Paro following a certain undefined 2-year period. I'm not going to go into it. Remember the story of it was the sheaves of wheat and the fat sheaves and the thin sheaves and the leaning in sheaves to one sheaf. And then it was the skinny cows and the fat cows. And it's, we all faiths have have somehow visited this parsha. What's most fascinating is that Yosef in prison, remember the scene with the wife of Potiphar? Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, so here he is in prison, and he's interpreting the dreams of the cupbearer, remember with the wine, his dream, and then he also interpreted the baker, the bread maker. All right. So in view of the sages, we call that Chazal, Yosef had to spend an additional 2 years in prison because in the previous parsha, he urged the cupbearer not once but twice to remember him. The words were, remember me to Paro. To remember him to Paro after he favorably interpreted the cupbearer's dream. Okay, and it came to fruition, of course. This apparent punishment of Yosef seems to be kind of at odds with the accepted principle in Judaism that we're not allowed to rely on a miracle. We have to have complete faith in God. But, of course, at the same time, we also are not permitted to exhaust all appropriate self-help measures. Some commentators explain that there was nothing inherently wrong with Yosef asking the cupbearer for help. But to put it plainly, he didn't simply ask him for help. He placed his trust in him. The Chazon Ish explains that Yosef may well have been required to make efforts to obtain his release, since the requirement to trust in God doesn't absolve us from pursuing natural means instead of relying on miracles. It's very interesting. I have clients that in my coaching practice, I give them a card when they walk out, and I says, expect a miracle. Expect miracles. Doesn't mean don't do the work. Simultaneously, however, we have to be aware of wildly clutching at any straw and foolishly enlisting unreliable allies. Yosef wasn't stupid. He was very tuned into human behavior. He certainly by this time, okay, after the experience with his brothers when he really wasn't reading the signs, now he had many, many years to get it. And he should have realized from the behavior of the cupbearer that the latter was the kind of a person who's going to forget his benefactor when the wheels of fortune finally turned. His failure to recognize this kind of indicates a desperation that was unworthy of Yosef and suggested a lapse of judgment, a lapse of, trust in Hashem. Similarly, in explaining why Yosef was punished, even though we're told that God often sends us salvation by natural means through human beings, it explains why we might trust in man, but only in someone who has earned that trust. Yosef was punished because he placed his trust in someone who actually may have indeed been evil. So let's take a look a second at his actions toward his brothers. A lot of crying. Oh, crossing my legs here. Yeah. A lot of crying, a lot of weeping. Now we can understand that emotional stress that he undergoes in confronting his brothers decades after they sold him into bondage and abandoned him to his fate. But Yosef, he cries not only for himself and his own pain and his angst, he weeps just as much for his brothers who've had to live with their awful, torturous secret. Secrets weigh, my friends. He also is crying for his father, made old and bent by grief, by travail. In Judaism, tears are a precious commodity. Hashem, so to speak, he counts every human tear. He stores them in an eternal container. Tears are not forgotten. They're the true staff of human memory. Esav, remember Esav? His claim against Yaakov is validated in the eyes of the Talmud because of the tears of anguish that he shed in the presence of his father, Yitzchak. Yosef can wash his face. He can control himself from weeping in public before his brothers, but he can't control the weeping of his heart and his soul. Life, according to Rabbi Wein, is a veil of tears. Yosef's private tears, more than anything else, are the focal point of his staged reunion with his brothers. When he can't control his outward tears, what does he do? The inner tears of his soul are revealed as well. And when inner tears are also apparent to others, that's when reconciliation, that's when harmony can take place and be achieved. Beautiful, beautiful comment about a Lithuanian rabbi who was asked on his first visit to Israel, did the pioneers wear kippahs? Did they wear yarmulkes on their heads? Or they have become not religious? And his answer was, when I saw the land of Israel being tilled by Jewish farmers after 2,000 years, my eyes welled with tears. I was unable to see clearly what was worn on the heads of those farmers. My friends, let's cry for each other, let's cry with each other, and let's cry tears of happiness, because this day too holds promise. Shabbat.
If you love
Shalom.
Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
If you're hearing this message, everyone else can too. Advertise with Israel News Talk Radio and get your message out to people. We'll build a personalized package for you. Contact advertising at israelnewstalkradio.com.
Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey, this is Jake in Anchorage, Alaska, and I love listening to all the super interesting interviews and up-to-date information on what's happening in Israel.
Hello, this is Anna King, originally from London, now living in Israel. And what can I say? Israel News Talk Radio is my cup of tea.
My name is Bhaskar. I'm from India, and I love listening because you get to know the truth and wonderful voices from this lovely country.
Mom! Okay, wait a minute. Hi, this is Chava Dax, and I'm calling for the rolling hills of Ma'ale Adumim, just north of Jerusalem. I always listen to Israel News Talk Radio to get all the latest news and commentary and to keep me up to date every day.
This is Sarah Dax from Ma'ale Adumim, and I'm 12. I wish Israel News Talk Radio was boring so my mom wouldn't listen to it all the time. Mom!
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.